All right, it's 3 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Lisa, you want to pray for us? Pray. What's your number? Okay. Y'all, welcome to the new 22-23 House Industry and Labor. And I ask Representative Hagan if she would open us in prayer.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to meet to discuss issues that deal with industry and labor in this state. I pray you would grant us wisdom and that you would cause our discussions to be beneficial to the people that we represent and to you, most importantly. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And like I said, they have trickled in. First order of business is we are going to pass our rules, and you're welcome for not having y'all come in just to do that. So y'all have probably seen these over and over. So if anyone is open to making a motion to pass, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, at the proper time, move
That would be this
to
time.
adopt. Yes. So I move to adopt the Rules Committee.
Thank you very much. And we have a second, Vice Chair Devin Seaball. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you very much. Custom, let's run down real quick because the people in the audience and online. And I've gotten texts from several members who are either in traffic or felt like they needed to be in meetings where they were actually taking a vote. So if they're like me, they will watch and listen online. That's my new podcast, is watch other committee meetings. Been up here too long when that's your interest on the road. So we're going to start down there with Bonner. If y'all will just light the board up, and I will recognize y'all and tell us, as you said, who you are, what you're about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Josh Bonner, District 73, includes portion of Fayette and Coweta counties.
And I'm State Representative Mike Cameron, and I represent District 1, which has Walker and Dade counties, northwest Georgia.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay, so Representative Matt Barton. I'm from Calhoun. I got Gordon County and part of Floyd County now.
Yep.
Is it on?
Yep.
Is it on? Okay. I'm Representative Barry Fleming, and I represent District 125, which is Columbia County and McDuffie County.
20.
24.
I was 24.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm Representative Barry Fleming, and I represent District 125, which is Columbia County, and McDuffie County, which is over near the Augusta area.
Y'all tell us what you do.
Some people accuse me of being a lawyer, but not all my clients.
Ready? Lisa Hagan. I represent District 156 in South Georgia. I have 6 counties between Macon and Savannah, south of I-16, and I'm a former school teacher. Is that enough?
Good afternoon. I'm Devin Seabaugh, represent District 34, which is northwest Cobb County, 1/14th of Cobb County. And I am in the healthcare business, specifically pre-hospital care.
19.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Representative Dewey McLean of House District 109. That's Gwinnett County. That's the cities of Lilburn, Lawrenceville, Norcross, and Duluth, which is the largest county in Georgia. And I'm in labor.
You're in labor.
Let's call the EMS guy if you're in labor. We don't want that to happen right here.
Okay. All right. We got one of them, huh? Mr. Chairman, we got one of them? Okay.
Hurry, Baltimore.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Kennard.
Yes, I'm Greg Kennard, District 101, Lawrenceville and Suwanee up in Gwinnett County. I'm a pastor and a nonprofit executive of a transitional program to end homelessness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Pedro Marin. I represent House District 96 in Gwinnett County, part of the cities of Norcross and Duluth, and I'm a business consultant.
Thank you, Chairman. I am State Representative Mandisha Thomas of the 65th District. I service South Fulton, Douglas, and Coweta County, and I write healthcare policy and procedures for a living.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Doreen Carter, represent House District 93. That is East DeKalb, Stonecrest and Lithonia, Rockdale, Conyers, Newton, and it's a slew of cities over there in Newton County. By profession, I'm an accountant, nonprofit executive, and I own a financial education business.
Thank you, Chairman. Casey Carpenter, City of Dalton, south end of Whitfield County in Northwest Georgia, District 4. I'm in the restaurant hospitality business, and I just noticed I feel like I'm sitting on the wrong side here. We need a little bit of commingling of colleagues, if you will, over here. And I am not in labor, but I have 4 kids, so I am well versed in it if I need to be called upon.
Yeah, thank you for noticing. I've always threatened I'm going to start signing seats if y'all sit right and left. Like Congress, we're not like Congress. All right, well, I'm excited. On our agenda today, we have our newly minted Commissioner of Labor, Bruce Thompson, and he's going to tell us whatever he wants to tell us. Kind of gave him a broad agenda vision, what he expects of us, and he might get a few questions of what we expect from him. And so, Commissioner, come on up. Why does it say timer? Oh.
We're live.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We appreciate the opportunity to come and just kind of share a little bit about your agency. I say that because it is a new day. Many of you throughout this building ask me to go and run for this, take the reins, and make a difference. And that's what I hope you're already seeing. Let's talk a little bit about that. This is not a partisan situation. It's a bipartisan situation when we have constituents that are out there that lose their jobs and they need the opportunity to gain benefits. We all went through the pandemic, and I'll tell you a little history about this. I was on this side, or your side, over in the Senate when we were going through that, and I had a perspective. All I knew is I had thousands of people that were calling me, and I couldn't seem to give them relief, and it affected my ability to be a legislator. I didn't understand why until we got in. Here's really kind of the status. I don't know, this is echoing a little bit. Is that okay? How's that? Is that better? Okay. Here's a little status of the history of why, because I believe when you're trying to problem solve, you want to get to the root first, because if we just throw money at it or throw programs or processes and you don't get to the root, all you've done is exasperate it. You see, our system was built in 1982. It's the oldest system in DOL in the country. So for some of you who have a background in technology as I do, you can either rewrite the code or the foundation of it, like some states have done, or you can layer. Think of it as back in the day when you had a car that had no air conditioning. You could afford to get air conditioning like I was. You take it in, they take the dash out, and they bolt in an air conditioner. It's not an integral part of the system. And that's what we've done at the Department of Labor. It has serviced us or served us okay for years until the pandemic hit. Here's why it happened in a pandemic. Because of the process of which we do claims then and today is we relegate most of the processes to human capital. You're right, human capital. Most of you in your businesses and most of the other states have used mechanized or technology where a lot of this processing can be done and monitored and then give you reports. We do not have that ability. So a couple years ago, you remember, we almost had our bond rate downgraded. Do you remember that? Okay, and it was, and arguably we said, well, it's because they're not complying. The reason they weren't complying, they didn't have the ability to pull the reports. So they had to stop what they were doing, deploy people to be able to do the audit. So any of you in here that have a background in accounting, or if you're a business owner like I am, that's not a good place to be. We have a system in there, built in 1982. We have added systems to it to try and make sure it's as current as we can. Our challenge we have now is not only is it on premise, which we all know, you should have that system in the cloud. And you go, why is that? All of you in the room, we have your information. Every one of you. If you're employed or been employed, we have your information. 2 streets away, not too long ago, and we can argue why it happened, but it did happen. We had some riots that took out windows on Peachtree. We're 2 streets away. Can you imagine if they would have done that on our building where our servers are and got a hold of that information? That's right. That's a status that we have right now. One of the first things we're trying to do is LAS. It's called lift and shift. Get it off premise, get it in the cloud where that information is not only protected, but we shove or shift the risk if there's ever a breach to that vendor. All of the other agencies that I know about are either done it or moving towards that. 8, I think, are finished right now according to GTA. We want to do that. That's to protect us because as legislators, if we have a breach, they're coming to you and to me. So we want to fix that. And it's the right thing to do. We are then moving towards how do we modernize that technology for the next risk we have. We know at some point we will have a recession. May not look like it today because we're roaring. But I will tell you, our unemployment is starting to creep up, even though we have a lot of jobs coming here. And you go, how can that be? Here's how. The shift from modernization of us really being able to see what's going on there versus just processing claims over to what happened on a vote that I took as well a couple years ago, regrettably now, is to move Wagner Pizer over to Technical College of Georgia. Here's why I say that. Technical College of Georgia under Commissioner Dozier does a fantastic job. They started here under his reign. I would say we all are very impressed and proud of our technical colleges, but they're an academic institution. Our career centers are charged federally. It's not my decision, it's federally, to help anyone that comes in there. That could be homeless, could be displaced, could be somebody that just wants a job, could be somebody coming out of the cold and they say they want a job. Federally, we cannot turn them away. Can you imagine if we actually move them to a technical college? Are we prepared to put armed guards everywhere in TCSG? But let's go back to why the unemployment rate's changing. In the life cycle of the Department of Labor, someone comes in, they're unemployed, we get them set up for benefits. And by the way, we are working on making sure that's much quicker and it's done right. And we can talk about that in a minute about some of the technological things we're doing. We get them on benefits, okay? Those that are legitimate. Then we want to make sure we can get them back into the economic cycle because we can all agree we don't want to sustain somebody just on unemployment. In the past, that life cycle was they're on our unemployment roll, they're receiving benefits. We're then going to look at them and say, are you equipped to go back into the workforce? Do you need resume support? Do you need any of the other support? Are there jobs that match you up with the skill set you have, yes or no? And if not, how do we get you to that point where there are jobs out there? So you follow me so far? Life cycle. When you move a couple of those positions over to the technical college, I have no way to know whether you applied for a job. Some of you in this room said, at some point, we need to break the benefits of somebody that's on that cycle. If we just become a UI, just an unemployment center, where all we do is that, you will see that unemployment rate continue to skyrocket because you have disconnected the life cycle. The life cycle called a one-stop that the feds designed for us to do. And by the way, if you go to these career centers in your areas, these are in your areas, or they should be in your areas because we need to represent the entire population, right? We can agree with that. When you go into a career center, people were cross-trained. So today, the chairman came in. Sorry, I'm going to make you unemployed for a minute. He comes in and he applies for benefits. Follow me? That is paid out of a UI grant. See, most of our funds come from the federal. and it's in different buckets, and you have to comply with those buckets. So the UI grant is to get people on unemployment. It's on the unemployment side. But then let's just say in 4 months, he's still unemployed. He comes back and he's like, listen, I've got to help with a resume because I'm changing careers. Today, or let me rephrase this, a month ago, the person that helped him get onto unemployment and fill out the claim could shift over and take that hat off and help him with whatever needs he has. But they can't charge to that UI grant because it comes out of another bucket. You follow me so far? Yes? Okay. When you take those away and you take those grants away and someone comes in that I'm federally charged with helping, what do? Do I turn you away and send you to the college? Now I've broken federal law, regulation. Or do I go ahead and help you, of which they have to charge somewhere, they're not going to work for free. Do I charge the UI grant? And if I do that, I put our UI grant, DFUTA, at risk. I don't think any of us in this room want to see that grant pulled away because we're not compliant. Y'all follow me so far? It's a state of a state to you to understand kind of the interesting position we're in. That's why we're coming to you and talking about what we've got to do. Sometimes in life, our best intentions have unintended consequences. We're here to tell you that we've got some unintended consequences we've got to address, and we're working on that. Let's go to some technology. One of the things I found as a legislator is nothing more frustrated than my AA, or at the time was Jenna Purpura or Jen Dose. People would call and say, I can't get through the DOL. I don't know where I'm at. I'm on appeal, whatever that is. And we would say, let me take your name and number. I'll see what I can do. The weight got shifted to us in our offices. Listen, we can all say we're servants and we want to help our constituents, but that is not what we're experts in, and we got 100 other things to do. So then there was a decision to send us, and some of you may know and some not, an Excel spreadsheet where we could just, some of you know what I'm talking about, put their name and number on an Excel spreadsheet and send it over to the DOL. Yeah, that's a little problematic. We have already got a program that's ready to be introduced this next Friday to you. It's not what I want it to be, but it's a start. What this program does is when someone calls in, they can simply enter their information in, and it will, through a series of questions, give you limited access to their claim to be able to see it. It is not what I want for you long term because I don't want you to be put in the box of helping them and then you always help them. What you will have shortly after that is the first section. The first section should be, we are not skirting our responsibilities. Same information, hit submit. You have a record, goes over to someone that's already set up. They are committed to General Assembly and Executive Branch questions. When it comes over, their charges that day, get a hold of those people, give disposition, put it back in the system, call it a contact management database. You will then see. You'll get notified. We've solved it. Here's where it's at, and the constituent as well. So you're in the loop of knowledge, but you're not sucked into being a DOL specialist. You follow me? That program I said that is already built is going to drop down, which is what I prefer. And if we ever have another pandemic or something happens and we're behind, as a backup, you would still be able to go in and see the claim. I'm telling you that because in 18 days, that's already getting ready to get rolled out. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in our state with DOL. This is not to talk about the previous administration, it's to talk about real time. When I walked in and started introducing myself to the people around, the first thing I said to them is, hey, my name is Bruce Thompson. I'm the commissioner. And they said, I know who you are. And they were very reluctant because they had this perception that we were going to do certain things and take certain actions. Some of those actions are accurate. I'm going to be very personal. I'm not going to be transactional. We're going to be relational. So over the last 18 months, what we have done is we have spent time helping each and every person understand my role as commissioner is a position. No more, no less, no more important than anyone else, just someone that occupies a seat with different responsibilities. From the janitor to me, we are all charged with making sure we're handling the people outside. To some of you may think that's ludicrous. It's called buy-in. And what we have now is a cultural change already happening. From the time someone hits the campus, they're charged with get your face up, Look somebody in the eye and greet them. Fake it till you make it if you have to, because it may be the very last time they're on this earth. Why? Because we're in a servant role. That is permeating that entire building. We also are changing some things that might be important to you. DOL lost somewhere between 9 and 11 people that were working there during the pandemic. They died during COVID or are the COVID related. There's no evidence in that building that we lost people. We're going to honor them as you walk in the building. Why? They're members of that family, just like we have here when we've lost some people. So I talk about culture because we need that culture for them to then understand we're here to serve you and the constituents. We already talked about what we're trying to do technologically. Let's talk about our building. We've had some facility neglect. It is what it is. But currently right now, we have an air quality test going on to see what the air quality is over there. We suspect we have some serious problems. I'll let you know. It's not to air out our laundry, but we are going to be spending your money that's come in, taxpayers' money, to fix those. We've got a water leak coming into the server rooms in that building over there. It's leaking in through the ceilings. It's leaking in through the floors. Every time we rain, it comes up and we have to get it out of there. We're going to address that. So we've got a lot of issues and facilities here, but then around our state. We have someone deployed already, Louis DeBrew, that you know, is charged with going around the state right now, every one of the 41 facilities, take an inventory of the people, our human capital, take an inventory of the building, take an inventory of our processes. Get that back to us as soon as we can. Do we need to spend resources on the people? Do we need to spend resources on the buildings? Or do we need to change the processes? And I'll have that report back to you within 30 days. It is our commitment to make sure you know what's going on at DOL. No longer are we going to be siloed. We've already been to the federal government. Again, I said we've got these revenue sources or grants that come to us. We traveled up there, Ethan and I, you know Ethan Stiles, our COO, traveled up there Sunday night, all day Monday, and spent with 7 members of a congressional delegation on both sides, right? This is not a partisan issue. And we shared with them kind of the nature of where we're at. We're all elected to the people. So that means we better be prepared for the next spike in claims. Let's talk about what spike of claims means. Typically, we run about 250,000 claims a year. Do you know what happened during the pandemic? Almost 5 million claims. If you don't have a crisis management plan in place, that's problematic. But let's even talk about if you don't have a system that can even handle it because you're processing things with human capital. That's a problem. And then in the pandemic, we had people off site because of the pandemic. That's really what happened. I wish they would have shared that with us. I wish they would have had a relationship with us. I wish they would have been open to our assistance. For some reason, it wasn't. I'm here to tell you, you will know what's going on in your agency. It's not mine, it's yours. We will commit to keep telling you about that. So we're going to try and prepare so we don't have that. Let me shift back again. We talked about modernization. We talked about people. We talked about procedures and so on that's going in there. And then we're talking about a culture. So let's talk about culture last. The one thing on everyone's mind right now across the country is the rise in homelessness. No one has really tackled that in a way that they see any marginal or measurable success. Sure, there's probably this gentleman I thought I heard or someone said that that was one of the things that they're trying to do in their nonprofit. There's great work that's being done, small scale. But government-wise, the government has not figured that out. We have a plan, once we do this, to deploy, to be able to go and see if we can get between 10 and 20% of the people on the street back into the cycle so they're now back into our economic engine. It will help close the gap that we have right now with the unlimited number of jobs we have, hundreds of thousands, where we're looking for workers. But more than that, we can instill some dignity in some people and put some families back together. There's 4 verticals we want to work on, and then I'll stop. Campaigned on this. Our state, roaring with economy. That's a success story. The problem is it won't be a success story unless we have workers, because eventually those companies will come after the jobs of my business, and yours, because they've got to get up and running. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to put our business at risk. First, are incarcerated. We're still in the top 10 of the country in most incarcerated state. Not here to argue about the incarcerated. I'm here to argue for when they come out of serving their time, we want them to be employed and gainfully employed so they don't go back in. We can all, bipartisan, we can agree with this. We got to change the process of how that's done. As a former military person, when you're processing out, spend a lot of time making sure you're ready to reintegrate into general pop. There are some success stories in Metro Atlanta of doing some of this, but it's not holistic across the state. The Department of Labor should be doing that. We should be lining people up that are interviewing far before they come out. If we're preparing you to be released, it should not just be that you have an ID and a probation officer. We should be using the resources we already have. And by the way, I'm not asking for more appropriation for this. I'm saying we will be doing this within the scope of what we should be doing. We should go in and make sure you have the essential skills to go and then be gainfully employed and then marry you up. So when you walk out, you're ready to go to work. Our veterans coming back. We're seeing more and more numbers of veterans that are hitting the homeless population. We can argue that it's PTSD. We can argue all the kinds of things, but the reality is that is increasing. We should do a better job of making sure our veterans are ready to be reintegrated, not just with our large companies, but the small as well. Most of you voted on the apprenticeship bill. We had that last year. I was one of the co-authors of that. They do it overseas. We do it on the south side of town. It should be across the board, taking young people, getting them involved and understanding the value of work. And the last is something unique. Our state is a growing population of retirees. Arizona does a fantastic job. Not all retirees are 85 years old and ready to call it quits. There are a lot of individuals that are in that 50 to 65 range, still have gas in a tank, but they don't necessarily want to go work retail for $18 an hour. They may be a middle manager, business owners, or whatever. They have the institutional knowledge and skill sets with no way to marry that up with a 25-hour job opportunity. And we seek to be able to do that through our Employ Georgia and other websites we already have set up. So we have a plan to be able to fill that funnel, but we have to deal with what we have first, which is our foundational basis. We've got to get our technology in line. We got to make sure we put some of these things back together that we have pulled apart. So we're doing what our constitutional and our federal requirements are before we have bigger problems. Mr. Chairman, with that, that's kind of a state of the state, and I'll hush and let you ask questions. Then I have some asks afterwards.
Okay, very well done. Yeah, we're going to get to those. Couple of questions, or one comment is, and we've already talked to Sam, going to try to line up a visit to DOL so we can actually see. But first of all, who is this Sam guy with a strange last name, and why does that matter to us?
Okay, we talked about people. So one of the things that we talked about is making sure that you had a pipeline into DOL. Not all of you can jump in a car and run over 6 blocks, nor do you want to do that. So I knew I wanted to have someone here as a representative. Companies do it. They're called lobbyists. Sam is not a lobbyist. He is our legislative affairs. Sam Dindoffer. Sam, will you stand up, please? Sam's responsibility is to the legislative and executive branch and limited with some of the lobbyists, but primarily yours and executive branch. If you have constituent issues, you have a portal to put it on, but you also have a face. And his job is to make sure, I am not hiding from here, but I am everywhere trying to make sure we're solving this as quick as we can. So he's an extension. So Sam is, he is the face of the agency here while you're in session, but part of our external affairs. In addition to that, we have Wesley Ross for the business community out there. We also have Louis DeBrew, who is working on the faith community around the state. When we have this recession, the faith community gets hit pretty hard. They don't know how to access DOL. We want full access.
Very nice. Representative Kennard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. You're kind of singing my song on the homelessness and the incarceration.
Nobody's ever said I could sing.
Something I run into all the time with clients that I serve, which, by the way, 10 to 15% of them at any time are veterans that we're seeing. State IDs. maybe a practice for DDS and DOC to work together to make sure that someone who's reentering has a state ID, but that's really, really not happening well. Didn't know if there's anything the DOL could do to maybe help that process. Another thing is criminal records. Most of the 4.5 million criminal records that are currently in our GCIC system are for nonviolent offenses, or more importantly, are arrest-only records. Mm-hmm. There's 2.5 million arrest-only, no conviction records that are still popping up on job applications and employment housing. We're promised in this country that you're innocent until proven guilty, but that's not true with our arrest record policy. It pops up even though you were not convicted. So do you have any insight on that from your perspective?
So I'll take the first question, and that is, I hope you're already seeing we are very collaborative. That extends to other agencies. Goodness, when we were talking about the fraud that happened, some of that's legitimate fraud, some of it's not. They just report there were some 280 to 300 current state employees that committed fraud by taking benefits. We've seen that report, right? Not all of that's fraud. Let's keep in mind, when you make a mistake, that's unintentional. When you intentionally commit fraud or you intentionally mislead someone to get a benefit, that's fraud. Some of these fraudulent cases were simple in that, when I say simple, meaning people just didn't understand. Even some legislators. If you were a legislator and you were getting paid, even though we're part-time, you were still receiving benefits. If you filled out an affidavit thinking that you had lost your job somewhere else, which you did, you may have misinterpreted that as, I don't have any benefit coming here. And if you'd have filled that out and got benefits, DOL is coming asking for those back. But they're hitting this record as fraud, okay? I bring that up to say, why? Because we are not coming after people from a punitive standpoint as we're going to try and prosecute everyone. What we simply want to say is if you made a mistake, form or pay back the restitution if you weren't. And then the bad actors, many of which are out of our state, we're coming after that. That's first, and that's important. IG and I are working together as well as the other agencies. But now let's go to what you were talking about. All the other agencies, we should be sharing information to make sure we're making educated decisions to help our constituents, the people of Georgia. And that is a good example of that. So yes, we are working collaboration. The second thing you were talking about is I don't have any insight into, nor do I have legislative authority to work on something that I think we've been working on a number of years, and that is criminal justice reform and or expunging of records and so on. I will tell you, we plan to make sure we're doing everything we can to help marry up employers with jobs with people that want to go to work. The other part, respectfully, sir, would be on you to enforce. I have no enforcement on that, so I'd respectfully ask for you guys to use your muscle.
May I ask one more question?
Yeah, but I can sort of help answer that. I am third signer this morning on a bill from Tyler Paul to fix that very thing on expungement. So we're working on it.
With GJC?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. One more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Casey. Yes, sir.
Okay, one more question.
Yes, sir.
But do you see that still as a barrier?
Absolutely. Anytime someone that wants to be gainfully employed that has something on their record. Listen, I had my identity stolen. It took me 6 years to get it cleared. I didn't do anything wrong. We need to make sure we remove barriers to let them get back into society economically and benefit from a number one economy in the state. I mean, in the country.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we've got several, but Tyler Paul's got a great bill on that very exact thing. Anybody else? Representative Carter.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your presentation. So you mentioned that you all are moving
Ms. Carter,
to the
get a little closer to the mic.
Okay. You all are moving to the cloud. So my first concern is protection. So how confident can we be that personal information is going to now be in the cloud with the Department of Labor? I'm trying to make sure I said the right name of it.
Sure. DOL. You're as confident as you are with all the other information, with all the other agencies you have. Right now, they're in the exact same proprietor of that information.
Okay, I was just having a Secretary of State flashback.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, look, DDS, look at your driver's license, look at all. They've all moved to the cloud because it's more secure than having it on premise.
Okay.
On premise, you've got to trust me, and then anybody comes to our premise. These are very large companies, and we are in the midst of moving down the road of contracting through our state agency that has already gone through this with 8 other agencies. So
Okay, thank you. And so my ask would be, since you did share that you all should be in the community, and many years ago, the office on Covington Highway in, I don't know if that's Decatur or Stone Mountain, depending on where you are, I don't know if it called Fire Move, and they sent it to North DeKalb. So there isn't a DOL location, Career Center, in East DeKalb.
okay.
We would like to have one back in East DeKalb. And if you need a location, we could find you something in my district.
Okay. So, if I may,
That's my
Mr. Chairman,
ask.
this is a good opportunity to introduce you to another member of my team. So, she walked out on me. Wow. Dang. Her responsibility as special assistant to me to keep me out of trouble, and she walked out. No, I'm just kidding. No. Hannah Harding. Many of you seen her down here. She's worked for me 5+ years in my companies. Was in our C-suites and our software companies and so on. Very talented. She's a chief development officer, so helping with culture, but also truly special assistant to me to make sure I am where I'm supposed to be and do the things that I need to. And I would ask Hannah if you'd take note and get with this representative so we can identify what that looks like and see if we can start down the road. And if that makes funding sense, if we can do it, why would we not do that?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Vice Chair Seaball.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, just a comment. I
Yes,
want to
sir.
thank you for running. Thank you for the job that you're doing. You've obviously put a lot of thought into this. Your presentation today was very helpful to me, and we look forward to your leadership.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I believe you said you had an ask, and also maybe any preview to a legislative package if you have one coming, but also any ask you might have.
Sure. So first thing is, and again, this isn't to take shot at the previous administration, it's just a fact. So for 25+ years, if you owned a business, there was an assessment fee that was charged to you that came to the General Assembly, because it always comes to the General Assembly, and then it's appropriated to the Department of Labor as a part of funding mechanism. It needed to be reauthorized last year. And it was moving very well through, and then for whatever reason, we dropped the ball, and the last day it was not called up, and that fee sunsetted. And we talked about many people about way to reauthorize that, and we thought the best way to do that is have it pass, but let's wait a year. Because some of you have already seen it, and you're like, why would you not go after that in our fiscal year? Because it would cause some real challenges for businesses as well as accounting. So it would be like, we're doing a mulligan for a year, but we need to put that assessment fee back in. You just gave your businesses a free year. Let's just say that. We're giving property tax maybe. We're giving our businesses that assessment fee. That is a part of a legislative package. It's just cleanup, going back to the way it is. The other is constitutionally, we had a rate of what we charge businesses. And that rate needs to be reauthorized. We are a General Assembly that likes sunsets, so you can reevaluate. That was part of that same package. So when that sunsetted, the rate of which we're charging for unemployment is not constitutionally charged. And in essence, it could go up to our business community. We want to go back and constitutionally put it back the way it was to lock that in. That is one of our legislative asks. Pretty simple cleanup, down and dirty. It's just all we're doing is reauthorizing. Again, we dropped the ball. We should have done it. We're asking to do it.
When you say we, you mean the Senate.
You know, I'm not a member of the Senate, but I do have plenty of colleagues and friends over there, just like I do here.
Go ahead.
But thanks for pointing that out, Mr. Chairman. The other is our appropriations package, right? And so we have significant, as I've laid out here, opportunities. One of the things I'm trying to do, Ethan Stiles, as many of you know, is already at 260 hours in 18 days. I thought I worked hard. The dude is just nuts. Top to bottom going through things, traveling with me. And we've outlined not wants, but literally needs. And my job is to then, all elected officials, say, here's what you're faced with. Federally, going back up to D.C. Monday to meet with our U.S. senators, as well as another senator on the Republican side out of state that's worked on homelessness, and done very well. But to say, here's what we're faced with, you are the ones that are charged with telling me what you want fixed. The original appropriation package that we're asking for, the governor's has $6 million coming to us. We appreciate the $6 million. $6 million doesn't even cover the scratch in the bumper of this car. We have significant problems. Okay, part of the move of Wagner Pizer, that's $101 million of our previous $165 million budget. If I am charged with operating on a $60 million budget, and if that's what your decision is, we will have to cut Department of Labor by roughly half, from 1,200 to 600. That means I can no longer staff your career centers. I will not have staffing to do that, which means we're not compliant with the one-stop. Furthermore, I already shared with you how we currently are processing claims until we modernize. There's no way I could process. So you will be faced with significant challenges back with claims not being processed. It's not a threat. It's just trying to educate you, and I promise all while you're in session and after, we'll educate you with that. We're asking right now and have met with leadership in the House and laid this out, and they're fully aware of what we're asking for. So I believe your leadership will be sharing with you what our ask is, and then you'll be able to decide that. So to make a dent in it, it's going to depend on whether or not the state wants to participate in any of this lift and shift and modernization, or you want the feds to do it. If I'm successful at getting them to open up the $102 million, by the way, the $102 million is not a new appropriations federally. There's $500 billion, according to them, that was appropriated to states that never was utilized. So it's still sitting there. We're asking for them to just give us some grace, let us have access to our 102 that was designated for us, and then we'll comply and have it encumbered and utilized by June. You had to have it encumbered by December 31st. If we do that, we're taking care of half of the problem. Then we just need to put some of these pieces back together. So it's hard to give you a number. It sounds political, but it really depends.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, you did a great job, and I want to echo what Representative Seaball said. Very exciting, and appreciate your efforts, and look forward to working with you.
Mr. Chairman, again, please feel free to reach out to us anytime. We had members, I don't think she would mind me saying it, but met with Representative Cannon this morning, and we're already working on a solution for her. So that's what our job is.
All right. Thank you. And unless there's anything else good for the order, we will have a bill, maybe two, next week from the agencies. And with that, we're adjourned.